Stop for a moment. Close your eyes and answer this simple, brutal question. What is the heaviest burden you carry right now? Is it the job that consumes your soul for a paycheck that barely covers the emptiness? Is it the relationship that feels less like a partnership and more like a carefully managed disaster? Is it the relentless, exhausting performance you put on every single day just to meet the expectations of people who barely see you? I'm not asking about your daily stress. I'm asking about the one thing that deep down makes you feel like you are slowly betraying the only person you are truly obligated to, yourself. For years, perhaps decades, you have been whispering a silent lie. The lie is, I can handle this. This is just how life is. If I just endure a little longer, if I just try a little harder, it will change. You've swallowed the indignity, justified the disrespect, and tolerated the intolerable, all in the faint, flickering hope that the outside world would finally grant you the permission to be happy. You built your life on the shifting sands of other people's needs, and now the tide is rising, threatening to wash away everything, including your very sense of self. This is the neurosis Carl Jung warned us about, the profound sickness that sets in when an inner truth is not made conscious. Jung, the great explorer of the human psyche, understood a critical threshold that every soul must cross to achieve true wholeness. It is a moment of total, uncompromising confrontation with the part of you that has been held hostage. It is the moment where the dam finally breaks and the soft, compliant voice inside you, the one that always said yes, suddenly, irrevocably, shouts a definitive, thundering no more. This is not a phrase you utter casually in a moment of pique. This is a primal declaration of war, a war not against the world but against your own inner cowardice. It is the end of an old life and the terrifying, exhilarating start of a new one. It is the point of no return. What happens in the deepest recesses of your mind when you finally make that declaration? The answer is not a peaceful transition. It is an alchemical explosion that will fundamentally rearrange your reality, a process so powerful that you will become a stranger to the people who thought they knew you best. They will see the change, but they will never truly understand the immense, solitary, and painful internal work that made it possible. They will call you selfish. They will call you changed. They will call you difficult. And for the first time in your life, you will hear their accusations, and they will hold no power over you. Because the self you are about to meet is the one who has been waiting in the shadows, the one who knows your true value, and the one who will never, ever let you down again. Get ready to dismantle everything you thought was stable, because the price of your authentic self is the death of your accommodating self. The journey starts now, at the moment of absolute refusal. The moment you declare no more, a profound shift occurs in your unconscious. Jung taught that the unconscious is not a dustbin of forgotten memories, but a living, dynamic force. And when you issue this ultimatum, you are essentially telling your entire inner world that the old contract, the one based on fear, people-pleasing, and self-abandonment, is void. The first response is often not empowerment, but a terrifying surge of internal resistance. This is your psyche fighting for the comfortable, predictable misery it knows. You will be assailed by doubt, a merciless inner voice that screams, "Who do you think you are? You're going to ruin everything. You're not strong enough to maintain this." This is the ego, panicking. The ego is the center of your conscious personality, and it has been defined by its role as the accommodator. When you remove its script, it experiences an existential crisis. It throws up every single fear you've ever repressed. The fear of loneliness, the fear of financial ruin, the fear of being seen as the villain. This is the moment most people retreat. They mistake this inner turbulence for a sign that they've made the wrong choice, and they quickly recede back into the safe, stifling cage of their old life, often with increased guilt. But if you hold your ground, if you simply allow this panic to rage without acting on it, you begin the most critical phase of self-discovery, the integration of the shadow.
The shadow, in Jungian terms, is everything you have rejected in yourself. The negative traits like anger, selfishness, and aggression, but also the positive, vital energies you deemed unacceptable. Power, assertiveness, and authentic desire. You have been saying yes externally because your shadow, which holds the capacity to say no, was unconscious and unintegrated. When you declare no more, you are consciously acknowledging the right to self-assertion. The repressed anger, the legitimate rage at being undervalued finally has a voice. Instead of projecting this rejected power onto others, seeing them as the greedy or selfish ones, you are forced to confront it in yourself. You realize that your refusal to set boundaries was not kindness. It was a form of self-sabotage, driven by a deep fear of conflict. Integrating the shadow is not about becoming a monster. It is about harvesting the raw, powerful energy that has been trapped in your unconscious and making it available to your conscious self. The anger you suppressed becomes the fuel for action. The selfishness you feared becomes the healthy self-interest that protects your well-being. This is the source of your newfound strength. You are no longer relying on external validation or the approval of others. You are drawing from an inner reservoir of power you didn't even know you possessed, because you have finally made the decision to stop being two-dimensional. You are taking back the pieces of your soul you scattered for the sake of peace and acceptance. And this move, this reclamation, begins to send ripples through your entire life, starting with the people closest to you.
The world outside you is not prepared for your transformation. The people in your life, your friends, family, and colleagues, have been operating with a familiar, comfortable script. They knew your boundaries, or rather, your lack thereof. They knew exactly how much they could take, how often they could lean, and how little they had to reciprocate before you simply bent and accommodated them. You were a reliable constant in their universe, a source of predictable energy. When you utter the two sacred words, "no more," and actually stand by them, the shockwave hits your social circle instantly. For them, it is not an act of self-love, but a betrayal of their expectations. Jung observed that our relationships are often built on projections. We see in others what we need to see to make our own inner world make sense. The people who relied on your lack of assertion projected their own repressed neediness onto you. Now, your refusal forces them to confront that neediness in themselves. The reactions will be immediate and intense. The people who truly value you, your essence, will be surprised, perhaps momentarily confused, but ultimately supportive. They will see the new boundaries and respect them, recognizing them as a sign of health, not hostility. But the ones whose connection to you was transactional, those who were only there to drain your energy, exploit your generosity, or lean on your instability, they will react with what Jung called the tyranny of the unconscious. They will try to guilt you, manipulate you, or even lash out in anger. They will try to pull you back into the old dynamic by making you feel like a terrible person. This is their own shadow being triggered. They are desperately trying to re-establish the control they lost because your self-assertion threatens their comfortable reality. They might say, "You've changed, and not for the better," and they would be absolutely right. The person they knew, the compliant, convenient version of you, is dead, and this is a necessary casualty. Your decision acts as a self-filtering mechanism. As your energetic signature changes, so does your magnetic field. The people who no longer resonate with your frequency, those who feed on your low self-esteem or your constant need for approval, will naturally start to drift away. This shedding process is painful. It can feel like profound loneliness. You may mourn the loss of people who were only there for the old you. But you must understand that the space they leave is sacred. It is the vacancy you need to attract authentic connections. People who see and honor your wholeness, including your strength and your clear, unyielding boundaries. You are not pushing people away. You are consciously curating your environment to reflect the value you have finally truly found within yourself. The empty seats are a sign of your growth, not your failure.
With the external noise of manipulation and guilt beginning to fade, you step into a new psychological landscape, the realm of unshakable self-worth. For so long, your value was a dependent variable, fluctuating based on the input of others. You measured your goodness by their approval, your success by their envy, and your lovability by their willingness to stay. This was a precarious existence, a life lived entirely outside of your own center. When you said no more, you implicitly declared that your well-being is more important than the comfort of others. You shifted the locus of control from the external to the internal. This is the essence of psychological maturity. Suddenly, you stop doing things because you should and start doing them because you choose to. This distinction is the difference between a life of obligation and a life of authentic engagement. The energy you spent managing other people's feelings, anticipating their demands, and repairing their emotional wounds now returns to you. It's an almost miraculous return on investment. This liberated energy is what Jung called psychic energy, and it is the raw material for genuine creativity and self-realization. What once seemed impossible, pursuing that forgotten passion, dedicating time to true solitude, or simply resting without guilt, is now not only possible, but imperative. You are now directing your own life force instead of allowing it to be siphoned off by external forces. This internal freedom manifests as an absolute inability to repeat old wounds. Where you once saw a red flag and rationalized it away, you now see a red flag and immediately, calmly walk the other way. You no longer engage in the destructive dance of trying to fix broken people or convince indifferent ones to care. You no longer chase. You no longer beg. You no longer explain. The internal compass has been recalibrated to point solely toward your own integrity. This is where the true understanding of self-love emerges. It's not a fluffy, sentimental feeling. It's a profound, non-negotiable loyalty to your soul. It is the realization that everything around you is a reflection of what you believe you deserve. If you tolerate disrespect, you believe you deserve it. If you accept crumbs, you believe you are unworthy of the feast. Saying no more rewrites this fundamental belief. You no longer tolerate the intolerable, not because you are angry at the other person, but because you are no longer willing to betray yourself. You become your own fiercest protector, your own most reliable advocate. This quiet, self-possessed assurance is magnetic. It's the kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself. It simply is.
To truly sustain the no more declaration, you must undertake the uncomfortable task of dismantling your persona. The persona, another of Jung's pivotal concepts, is the mask you wear for the world, the carefully constructed social facade designed to make a good impression and fulfill society's expectations. For the person who has been saying yes to everything, the persona is the ultimate people pleaser, agreeable, conflict-averse, and tirelessly helpful. Your entire life up to this point may have been an unconscious attempt to protect this persona. You feared that if you showed the world your true, imperfect, messy, and assertive self, you would be rejected. The moment you say no more, the persona begins to crack. You start to drop the acts, the forced smiles, the obligatory laughter at jokes that aren't funny.
You stop apologizing for taking up space. You start to speak your mind, not in an aggressive way, but with a simple, calm honesty. The feeling is terrifying, like stepping out onto a stage naked, but this vulnerability is the key to unlocking authenticity. You begin to understand that the exhausting effort you put into maintaining the persona was what was truly draining your life force. Being authentic, even if it is initially met with confusion or disapproval, is profoundly restful. You no longer need to monitor your every word or action. You are simply being. This shedding of the old skin allows the true self, or the self in Jungian terms, to emerge. The self is the totality of your psyche, conscious and unconscious, the inner blueprint for your wholeness. It is the authentic, integrated core that includes your light and your darkness, your strength and your vulnerability. The no more boundary is not just a defensive barrier, it is an energetic container that protects this nascent true self as it develops. The process of individuation, the lifelong psychological journey of becoming an integrated, whole individual, is impossible without this confrontation. You cannot become whole while simultaneously remaining a fragmented performance for others. The true self is the part of you that knows its own destiny, its own needs, and its own truth, irrespective of external approval. What emerges is not a new person, but the person you were always meant to be, finally free from the layers of conditioning. The people who once knew you might say you are no longer the same, and they are correct. You are no longer available for the dynamics you once tolerated. You are no longer the person who justified the lack of reciprocity. You are no longer trying to fit into places where you are not truly welcomed. You have finally reconnected with your essence, and that essence is powerful, bounded, and profoundly free.
The most tangible, immediate change that follows the No More declaration is the massive reclamation of your two most precious, non-renewable resources, time and energy. Before, your calendar and your emotional bandwidth were treated like a public utility available to anyone who demanded a withdrawal. You were running on emotional fumes, constantly overdrawn in the bank of your own life. When you institute the No More policy, you treat your time and energy as sacred. This requires a shift in perspective. You are not saying no to a person, you are saying yes to yourself. Every declined invitation to a draining activity, every ignored email that attempts to impose on your evening, every honest refusal to take on extra uncompensated work, each is a profound act of self-reverence. You are finally recognizing that you are not a bottomless well of resources for others. This renewed energy doesn't just sit there. It demands to be channeled into creative, life-affirming endeavors. Jung said, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity." That inner necessity, once choked by obligation, now has room to breathe and manifest. The projects you always deferred, the books you meant to read, the stillness you desperately craved, they now become the center of your life. This is the path to meaning. When your life is no longer about managing crises or fulfilling external duties, it becomes about creating value aligned with your soul. Your work becomes an expression of your deepest self, not a mere transaction. Your relationships are forged in genuine connection, not mutual neediness. You are moving from a reactive life to a proactive one. The solitude that once felt like punishment or a sign of failure now becomes a sanctuary. Jung was a great advocate of introspection, and true introspection requires uninterrupted quiet. When you are no longer filling every moment with noise or other people's dramas, you create the space for the daemon, your personal genius or guiding spirit, to speak. This is where your intuition strengthens and your true direction becomes clear. The greatest insights do not arrive in the middle of a frantic social schedule. They emerge from the depth of a self-possessed silence. The fear of missing out, or FOMO, is replaced by the joy of missing the wrong things, JOMO. You are no longer compelled by a collective neurosis. You are guided by an inner compass that knows the difference between true connection and draining obligation. You are becoming sovereign over your own inner kingdom, and this mastery over your inner state is what truly defines freedom.
As you proceed on this path, you begin to integrate the core duality of the human condition. Life is not simply a contest between good and evil, as the ego persona wants you to believe. Jung understood that wholeness requires the conscious acceptance of paradox. We're all capable of both immense light and profound darkness. The No More declaration is an ethical action because it is an act of self-integration. When you repress your shadow, your capacity for anger, selfishness, and power, it doesn't disappear. It simply runs your life from the basement of your psyche. It leads to passive aggression, resentment, and self-destructive behavior. By bringing your dark side into consciousness, you disarm its destructive potential. The integrated person is not a nice person in the conventional, often weak sense. They are a whole, conscious person, one who can be kind precisely because they know their own capacity for strength and refusal. This integration results in a new level of ethical clarity. You stop judging others for the flaws you deny in yourself. You stop projecting your own failings onto the world. This is what Jung meant when he said, if an inferiority is conscious, one always has a chance to correct it. You are no longer defined by your reactions. You are defined by your conscious choices. Your interactions become marked by a powerful, calm honesty. You don't need to be aggressive because your boundary is rooted in a deep internal conviction, not a fleeting mood. When you say no, it is a complete, unassailable sentence. It is not an invitation to debate, manipulate, or argue. This clarity is an unexpected gift to others as well. People respect a clear boundary, even if they initially react with discomfort, because it is an anchor in an uncertain world. This is the final, mature stage of self-love. The recognition that your well-being is not just about personal comfort, but about your ability to engage with the world as a fully realized, truthful individual. You become a force for consciousness. Your refusal to tolerate the mediocre, the manipulative, or the draining in your own life quietly raises the bar for everyone around you. You are showing them through your action that a life of authenticity is possible. You are no longer a victim of fate, but a conscious co-creator of your own destiny. You are living the truth that Jung articulated. When an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. By making your need for wholeness conscious, you have taken the helm of your fate. The journey from the timid whisper of I can't to the earth-shattering roar of no more is the hero's journey of our time. It is a solitary, difficult path, but it is the only road that leads to the true destination, the authentic self. You have traded the comfort of conformity for the terrifying exhilaration of freedom. You have sacrificed the easy approval of the crowd for the difficult, precious approval of your own soul. And in this act of conscious refusal, you have discovered a resilience you never knew you possessed. The person who emerges from this process is not merely better or happier,
they are whole. They are a person who lives in alignment, a person whose inner world matches their outer actions. They carry their own light, and they are no longer dependent on others to illuminate their worth. They are their own authority, their own judge, and their own most devoted companion. Your new life will be quieter. It will be more intentional. It will be radically honest. And in that quiet, intentional honesty, you will find a depth of peace and meaning that the frantic, people-pleasing version of you could never have conceived. You are no longer defined by what you tolerate, but by what you demand for yourself. This is not the end of the journey, for individuation is a lifelong process, but it is the end of the beginning. You have crossed the threshold and stepped into the life that was always waiting for you. So, here's the question for you now. What is the one thing in your life right now that you know deep down demands your immediate, non-negotiable no more? Is it the toxic habit? Is it the draining commitment? Is it the inner critic? Identify it, name it, and then, for the sake of your own soul's integrity, say the two sacred words. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now. Because the world does not need another agreeable, fragmented soul. The world needs your authentic truth. It needs your clear boundaries, your protected energy, and your conscious presence. I want to know, what is the single biggest no more declaration you've made or need to make? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a conversation about the profound power of self-reclamation. Like and subscribe if you are ready to stop betraying yourself and start living from a place of unshakable self-worth.